Okay, so this is a pre-recorded session for IET 4115, Human Resource Management. And in this recording, we're going to cover Chapter 1 out of the textbook. So we're going to actually start here on page 5 in the textbook. And we're going to talk about why we need to start off by talking about why we need to study human resource management. One, we need to make sure that we have a competitive advantage in the job market and in the whatever industry that we're in. We need to make sure, in order to have that competitive advantage, that we have employee engagement. And the way that we develop employee engagement is to have job satisfaction. And when you have good job satisfaction, that creates a willingness to perform well at doing whatever we're asking the employees to do. We also need to make sure that we have, from a human resource perspective, that we have organizational success. In order to have that, we need to have employee engagement, we need to have effective management, and we need to have productivity, and we need to have profit. That's the case for any organization that you're in. So let's jump down to page 7. We'll talk about some of the human resource management concepts, both past and present views of human resource management. So the past views of human resource management is that you had cost centers. In these types of organizations, the human resource department was considered to be a cost center, and a cost center is a division or department that brings in no revenue whatsoever. So they really didn't get credit for any of the money that was made within the organization. And revenue centers are divisions or departments that generate monetary returns for an organization. And human resource management was considered to not be part of that whatsoever. So with the present view of human resource management, still here on page 7 in the textbook, productivity centers is a revenue center that enhances the profitability of the organization through enhancing the productivity of people within the organization. That's a new view of human resource management. And when we talk about productivity, we talk about that here, continuing on over to the next page. Productivity is the amount of output that organizations receive per unit of input. In order to effectively have productivity, it requires effectiveness in getting the job done correctly. You have to think to yourself, did we do the thing right? And also, you have to ask the question, did we do the right thing? So there's effectiveness in getting the job done. You think, did we do the right thing? Then you have efficiency in using the resources, and that's asking, did we do things right? Okay, very important questions to be asked. So one of the big jobs of human resources in the 21st century is to be an advocate for workers. Okay, so that means you need to support the employees, you reinforce the value of workers and their skills, you improve working conditions and benefits. Also, human resources involved with communicating the company's values and directives, and they also are involved with maintaining the best practices and staying within the established budgets for the organization. There are quite a few challenges that human resource managers have, and this is jumping over to page 10 in your textbook. The first challenge for HR managers is that they have no direct impact over some of the processes that they're directly responsible for. First, you have job satisfaction, and that's the extent to which people like their jobs in the environment in which they work. So, as far as directly impacting that for all the employees, it's very difficult for human resource managers to do that. They also have no direct impact over turnover. And that's the permanent loss of workers, which costs the organizations in a lot of different ways, and we'll talk about some of those ways later. And then you have absenteeism that they have no direct impact over, the failure of an employee to report to work at specified times. Therefore, as a result of this, human resource managers need to foster employee willingness They need to create a desire to work. They need to assist in effective and efficient performance. So very important things for them to consider. So there are different types of turnover, and that's mentioned here in the textbook as well, where you have the functional turnover, and that's the loss of a poor performer. That typically is not really that big of a loss for the organization over time. You have dysfunctional turnover, which is where you have the loss of an effective performer. Then you have avoidable turnover, which is the loss of a good worker that could have been avoided. And then you have unavoidable turnover, which is loss of an employee that could not have been avoided in any way. Okay. So moving over to the next page here, where we start talking about the human resource management view on page 11. The human resource management as being a part of the strategic view basically has taken place within the past 30 years. It's a shift from a reactive view to a proactive review and taking a strategic role in helping with the business planning. It gives organizations a sustainable competitive advantage, and it carries out organizational ideas and reaches goals of the overall strategic plan. And the gain of HR leaders having a seat at the table is a very important thing as it pertains to the strategic planning and making sure that you have a strategy. But not only do you have a strategy in place, but you also have the right people in place to execute that strategy. So it enhances the value of HR to be viewed as a part of the solution and not part of the problem. And it breaks down that barrier, that concept of the us versus them mentality. So collaboration allows companies to progress rapidly in pursuit of their success if human resource management is tied in with that process from the get-go. Okay, so the main goals of human resource management here on page 12 in the textbook is to encourage the employees. And there's 5 different ways that are mentioned here that we need to be able to help encourage employees. We encourage them through motivation. You have encouraging them through true leadership, through environmental analysis, through organizational changes, and through employee engagement. So the first main goal of strategic human resource management is to encourage employees. Number 2, they need to help increase productivity and to improve job satisfaction. And 3, they need to be able to lower absenteeism and turnover within the organization. So personnel of organizations are very important to consider. And HR needs to position itself as a force that supports a well-managed and people-centric business. So senior executives realize that their personnel are not just headcount. They're not just overhead or subordinates. They are investors and stakeholders in the future potential and prosperity of their business, and that's how human resource folks need to be viewed. So as far as technology skills and knowledge skills, human resource managers are experiencing in shifting labor-intensive talents to the technologically intensive areas and the knowledge skills of the business. And technological enhancements are very important for human resource managers to be aware of, and how to change the efficiency of the organization and productivity, and learning how to do more with less. That's what everyone in the organization is challenged with doing, and human resource management needs to understand that goal as well, and they need to be able to understand how to choose effectively the talent pool and to be able to bring those people into the organization. So some of the challenges that they have in making that happen. One is just the general talent pool. Human resource managers compete to hire and retain technologically skilled employees. There's a shortage of employees with knowledge to perform increasingly complex jobs. Also, one of the challenges that human resource people have is the concept of demographics. Labor demographics is a very huge obstacle for human resource managers. They have to be culturally conscious of employees with different work ethics, with different cultural norms, with different religious affiliations and with different language differences. These are things that human resource managers have to be very much aware of. Here on page 14 in the textbook, we see skills that human resource managers need to have. They need to have technological skills, and that's methods and techniques for performing a task. They need to be aware of ways to do things better. On page 15, it mentions human relations skills that they need to have, and that's the ability to work well with individuals and groups, the ability to understand, communicate, and work well with people of different groups and being able to develop effective relationships. That's on page 15 in the textbook. On page 16 in the textbook, it talks about, let me jump over there, the conceptual and design skills, the ability to evaluate a situation, to identify and select reasonable alternatives, and to make decisions that will drive the implementation of proper solutions and to be able to implement solutions. You also have business skills that they need to be familiar with. That's analytical and quantitative skills that help the manager understand and contribute to the profitability of the organization. You have skills like communication skills, the ability to effectively write, speak, and present. That requires clear and concise communication skills. They also need social media skills, and that's the ability to capitalize on the benefits of social networking. Human resource managers are using social media much more effectively now than they have in the past, and that's drives the ability to be able to use that to screen employees. You also have perceptive and spatial thinking, the ability to develop lateral thinking and honing a sense perception. This clarity of thinking is valued for senior level managers. It's very important for them to have that capability. So also here in the textbook, starting on page 17, actually starting on page 16, it talks about line managers, human resource management responsibilities, and it talks about line management versus staff management. So line managers are the individuals who create, manage, and maintain the people and organizational process that create whatever it is that the business sells. And the human resource managers, on the other hand, have to be be staffing managers and individuals who advise those line managers in their particular field or in their particular expertise. So the line managers are usually depicted in the organizational chart with a straight line of responsibility, and the staff managers or the HR managers usually are depicted on the organizational chart using dotted lines because they're not directly tied towards specific products or specific processes. Okay, as far as there's 3 segments that I want you to read through on your own. On pages 17 through 18, there are human resource responsibilities for line managers. You can see that you have legal considerations. Starting on page 17, you have legal considerations, labor cost controls, leadership and motivation, training and development, appraisal and promotion. You have safety and security of employees, and you have ethics and sustainability. Also, starting on page 18, I want you to look at the disciplines within the human resource management. Some of the specific disciplines that they have starts on the middle of page 18. The legal, EEO, and diversity management. You have staffing, training and development, employee relations, labor and industrial relations, compensation and benefits, safety and security, ethics and sustainability. Again, very high-level concepts. I want you to read through those different concepts on pages 18 through 22 and understand those yourself. Very straightforward reading. And then finally, the thing I want you to look at is some of the human resource management careers. Starting on page 23 and jumping over into, goes over to page 26. It talks about some of the professional associations and certification programs that employees obtain and advance in their human resource careers. You have the Society for Resource Management, the SHRM. You have the ASTD, the American Society for Training and Development. And then you have the World at Work concepts that you need to be familiar with. We also have the concept of professional liability that you need to be familiar with. And read through that on your own. The organization and managers can be sued by employees who feel that their rights under employment laws have been violated. That is a huge piece of what human resource management does. They protect the organization, they protect the managers, they protect everyone within the organization from the standpoint of understanding what are all of the EEO laws, what are all of the diversity laws, what are all of the labor-related laws that they need to be familiar with. So for this reason, it's important to understand the human resource management concepts as thoroughly as possible. Throughout the course of this, throughout the process of us going through this course, there's no way that I'm going to be able to give you great insight into all of those different laws, those different regulations, and all the things that you need to know. I'm going to give you a good high-level understanding of the different responsibilities that HR has, the legal environment around that, and some of the different responsibilities that human resource management has. So just make sure that you're familiar with those, know some of the career options for human resource managers, and you don't have to worry about this practitioner's models from that point on. Once you get to page 23 or so in the textbook, from there on it's not quite as critical. So that concludes this recording for Chapter 1 of IET 4115 for the HR management.